Hi. Sorry I haven't been here for a little while, but I'm hoping to make up for some time. So, the chapter we're reading today of our book is called Crazy Lady, and of course, our book is The Jam Donut That Ruined My Life. So, let's see where we're at. The Crazy Lady, very fitting. On Thursday mornings, Mrs. McDonald has her planning time, so Mr. Noblet takes us for science and PE. Normally, Mrs. McDonald works at home when she's planning, but on this Thursday, she was at the door to the classroom having a massive row with one of the school cleaners. "I'm meant to have finished by the time the children got here," moaned the cleaner. "I've got to vacuum the carpet." "Over my dead body," said Mrs. McDonald. "My Mr. Wiggles is on the loose somewhere in there. If I let you in, you'll suck him up the hoover. But. Mrs. McDonald raised her finger. "In fact, he's always crawling into small spaces. He's probably inside your vacuum cleaner right now. I demand you take it to pieces this instant." Mr. Noblet arrived. "Mrs. McDonald, please. We'll find Mr. Wiggles." The cleaner was already walking away, muttering something about a crazy lady. Gamble bounced straight up to Mrs. McDonald. "Guess what, miss? 'Cause you're my favourite teacher, I bought you this, miss." He held out a doughnut for her. Jane put a hand on his shoulder. "Darren, darling, I thought you bought that for us." Gamble didn't even look at Jane. "Didn't say that." "But you said you'd save the doughnut for a special lady," she whined. "I thought Can it, Turtle Breath? There's only one special lady in my life, and that's Mrs. McDonald, innit? And anyway, I know you fancy me and everything, but I ain't gonna nick my best mate's chick, am I?" Jane stormed off into the classroom and flopped into her chair. I noticed her breathe into her hand and hold it up to her nose to check if her breath really did smell of turtles. "Darren," said Mrs. McDonald sternly, "it's your fault Mr. Wiggles escaped in the first place. I'll never forgive you, so don't try to get back in my good books by giving me cake." "No, miss, it's not for you, miss," said Gamble. "See, I've been thinking that Mr. Wiggle loves doughnuts, right? So I'm going to put this in his cage. We'll leave the door open, then close it behind him when he comes back, miss." Mrs. McDonald's face suddenly seemed to soften. "Oh, Darren, how sweet! I could kiss you if it weren't for, the fleas, the worms, the smell." "I understand, miss. We'll put him back. Promise," said Gamble, blinking proudly. Mrs. McDonald wiped a tear from her eye. When we were inside the classroom, Mr. Noblet got us to look for Mr. Wiggles before our science lesson started. "Don't forget, guys, he likes hiding in small places, so use your incredible eyes for looking." The whole class and Mrs. McDonald and Mr. Noblet searched everywhere, which was way better than doing science. The only person who didn't help was Miss Clegg, who sat in a chair flicking through a magazine. We looked in the cupboards behind the furniture, under the books on the shelves, even in the drawers. There was no sign of him. After 10 minutes, Mr. Noblet told us to stop. "Looks like he's pretty well hidden," he said, "but I did find something else in the cupboard we could use for our science lesson." He pulled out a large box with a picture of an air rocket on it. One of those that you stamp your foot on and pump it up and it fires the rocket into the sky. "Cool," said everyone. "Let's take it out and give it a bash," said Mr. Noblet. "Give Miss McDonald some space to continue the search." Everyone cheered. "Can I come?" said Gamble. "No," yawned Miss Clegg, putting her magazine back into her handbag. "You know you don't do science anymore, Darren." "Oh, that's not fair, miss. I want to be an astronaut." Gamble was banned from science after a mini-base lesson on his second day at school when he put a centipede into Kevin Harrison's lunchbox, which caused the biggest volcano eruption of all time. Since then, every week, Miss Clegg takes him for a walk round the school grounds while we have our science lesson. Grumbling and kicking the furniture, Gamble followed her out of the classroom. Now, I'm going to read 2 chapters today, and the next part of the chapter is called Flying Pigs. Since we did the exams, school's become a piece of cake. Aquarium trips, letters to guinea pig sitters, inventing machines, and doing simple maths. And this science lesson was the easiest yet. It was meant to be about gravity, but all we had to do was troop out into the field and watch Mr. Noblet play with an air rocket. Mr. Noblet pulled a foot pump out of the box and joined it to a tube. The tube led to the rocket's launch pad, which had a thick pipe sticking up from it where the rocket slotted onto it. As Mr. Noblet prepared to launch it, Gamble walked past with Miss Clegg. "Oh, can I jump on it, miss? Can I?" "No, Darren," answered Miss Clegg, yawning away. "You'll only break it." "So fair," he grumbled. When Gamble was a decent distance away, we counted down from 10. Then Mr. Noblet jumped on the foot pump and we watched the rocket shoot up into the sky. Everyone was cheering. Their eyes followed the rocket as it climbed higher and higher. It was pretty ace, so I don't know why I glanced back over at the launch pad, but I did. And what I saw there made my tummy do a backflip. A tiny little bald head was poking out the top of the launch pad. Mr. Wiggles! Of course, he must have crawled back into it in the cupboard. Why didn't anyone check before we used it? Mrs. McDonald had been going on about him hiding in small places the whole time. Still, at least he was okay. "Mr. Noblet!" I cried, but he couldn't hear me because everyone was howling as the rocket swooping down towards a tree. I pushed through the rest of the class towards the launch pad, and Mr. Wiggles was scrambling to escape from the tube, but his fat body must have got stuck. I was almost close enough to touch him when, "Darren, come back here!" cried Miss Clegg from somewhere. Oh, good grief. Gamble was charging towards the launch pad too. He must have noticed Mr. Wiggles, and he was looking where he wasn't looking where he was going. "Stop me jumping on it now, Cleggy!" he shouted over his shoulder. "But the rocket's not even on it," groaned Miss Clegg. "Don't care," shouted Gamble back at her. I tried to call out, but it was too late. "Ha! Dive bomb!" yelled Gamble, leaping through the air. I glanced from Gamble to Mr. Wiggles. I swear the guinea pig looked straight into my eyes, just as Gamble's foot slammed on the foot pump. Flump! If you ever wondered what a guinea pig sounds like when it's fired 60 feet in the air from a narrow tube, that's it. Flump! Good grief, I said, as Mr. Wiggles shot up and up, his fat pink body spinning through hundreds of somersaults until he was a tiny speck in the sky. A couple of other people seemed to notice, nudging each other and pointing upwards. "Oh no!" said Mr. Noblet, squinting up into the sky. "Mr. Wiggles!" One of the girls squealed. Then something awful happened. This was a lesson about gravity after all. Mr. Wiggles began to plummet. He was heading straight for the playground. He'd be splattered like a dropped pie. "Do something!" shouted Gamble, who had stumbled backwards and was now laying on the ground. I sprinted as fast as I could, my eyes locked on his little body as it fell, faster and faster ahead of me, 20 feet, 15 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet. Desperately, I dived forward, eyes closed, hands outstretched as far as they would go, and slap! At the exact moment I face planted into the tarmac, I felt the guinea pig plop into my hands. I've caught Mr. Wiggles! Yes! I screamed. Opening my eyes, I could hardly even feel the pain in my face. Mr. Wiggles was safe. This was amazing. In 7 years of PE, I've never even caught a cold. And here I was, saving a guinea pig's life. Mrs. McDonald would be over the moon. I pulled him towards my face. Woohoo! I said, you beauty! Without warning, Mr. Wiggles lurched forward and bit me right on my nose. Seriously, talk about thanks. As I howled in pain, the evil little creature wriggled out of my hands and scampered across the playground. By the time I'd chased after him, he was round the corner and out of sight. Right, that's the end of our story for today, and tomorrow it will be How's My Boyfriend? See you then. Bye.